If you are a Nintendo fan, go see the Mario movie. It's filled with an absolute truckload of fun references, and I would wager that half of the fun of the first time viewing experience is spotting all of these different references. Don't let me ruin that for you. Now that the first time viewers are out of the audience, the Mario movie is pretty good. It's a genuinely fun romp from beginning to end, filled with enough visual eye candy and loving homages to keep me entertained and largely able to ignore most of its major problems. Despite my worries, the voice cast all do a surprisingly great job. Most of them are just doing their normal voices with the occasional extra flair, but there's some genuine love felt here. For example, I think we all owe Chris Pratt an apology because while we all expected the worst, he delivered pretty greatly. However, my personal favorite in the voice cast has to be Kevin Michael Richardson as Kamek, because he is the only one putting on a character voice, and I think that's fun. And bro, oh my god, do not even get me started on the music. Every new scene is positively filled with musical references to Koji Kondo's, Grant Kirkhope's, and David Wise's best. And believe me when I say it never failed to get my heart pumping when the sweeping orchestral score shifted from a tidge generic to something I recognized from my many years of Mario expertise. I think it's safe to say that this film is carried by its ties to the video games, with all of Mario's adventures, both old and new, being referenced in both plot points and cute little Easter eggs. Whether or not this is a good thing or a really bad thing, I'm kind of heads or tails on. It's IP-based marketing. You think Sonic would be nearly as good if you didn't know anything about Sonic beforehand? And speaking of Sonic, let me just tell you how refreshing it is to get a video game movie that actually feels like the video game. In the first Sonic movie, you spent like an hour, or at least what feels like an hour, between references to the games, where in Mario, it feels like it never stops bombarding you with reference after reference. And they never feel like they're intrusive to the viewing experience. They're just there in the background for eagle-eyed viewers like me. In fact, I have another screening in about 4 hours, and I am just as excited to Ludovico my way through another viewing of this movie. So if I'm this positive about all of this, you might be thinking, why are critics so down on the Mario movie? Well, a lot of people may not know this about me, but I am not just a Nintendo fanboy. I am a student of film, and from a film critic standpoint, this movie's not very good. Performances are middle of the road, the entire story can be summarized in one sentence, and at the end of the day, this is just a kid's movie with Mario theming. And that's fine, right? Like, I don't know what some of these critics were expecting from the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Like, yeah, it's a middling movie, grown adult man who doesn't play video games, but what were you expecting as someone who's on the exact opposite side of this film's intended audience? And I don't want to just say the blanket, don't trust film critics, form your own opinions, because despite what Twitter may tell you, the layman's opinions on media do actually matter sometimes. Just not for this one. The fact that I saw people genuinely scared that this movie was going to be terrible when the non-Mario fan, non-kid critics saw the Mario Kids movie is baffling to me. And this whole conversation reminds me of a personal anecdote. Whenever my sister and I go to see a movie that has a middling critic score, she always says this one thing. She would say, is it not enough to have enjoyed something? Does that something also have to be good? And that sentiment used to really get under my skin. Of course, I want something I like to be good. But I think with the Mario movie, I'm starting to get what she means by that. The Super Mario Bros. Movie is exactly what it sets out to be. A loving tribute filled with a bunch of references to the source material and extended Nintendo universe for the adults watching who grew up with Mario, and a fun, colorful, and funny, if uninventive and bland movie with marketing tie-in potential for the kids in the audience. I think with the current larger conversations around animation in the film industry, its place for older audiences, and a large swath of adults who watch exclusively children's animation, there is a pressure for animated properties. A pressure for animated properties, specifically those aimed at a child's audience, to be just as thought-provoking and interesting for the adults in the room. And well, sometimes it can be, and sometimes it's just not meant to. The Super Mario Bros. Movie is a pretty damn good movie. It's not gonna reinvent cinema, and it's not gonna be as good if you're not familiar with the game series, but does it really have to? See ya!